Welcome back to New Jersey Power and Politics. I'm Luke Margolis. In a normal week, a deal on comprehensive immigration reform would be the big story. But as you all know, this has been anything but a normal week. However, there was a major breakthrough on this contentious issue, and one of our state leaders was at the heart of it. U.S. Senator Bob Menendez is a member of the Gang of Eight, the bipartisan group of senators who worked together on the bill. Senator, thanks for joining us. But before we get into the immigration issue, I'd like to first start with what has really been the overarching story this week. And of course, that's what's happening in Boston. Combine that with the ricin scare that we saw in Washington, D.C. this week. And it's been, for some people, a terrifying week. What's been your reaction to some of these issues that have come up this week?
Well, look, first of all, our thoughts and prayers are with the people of Boston. They're resilient. And we saw some of the best in the midst of some incredible tragedy. We look forward for the full apprehension of the individual who's left to be captured. It just goes to show that even though we have long periods in which we have had virtually no terrorist action, that in fact this is a constant vigilance that is necessary. And you never know why an actor will act. We're not quite sure, why these individuals in Boston acted. In the ricin case, there's some suggestion the person is mentally unstable. But in either case, the reality is we have to get it right 100% of the time.
And your position being on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, obviously, if this should be something abroad, undoubtedly your committee will be looking into that type of thing, I'm sure.
Well, as facts unfold, we'll decide. Of course, these two individuals have been reported as coming from Chechnya. They've been here over a decade, so you have to wonder what happened a decade later that would move them. Chechnya has been a troubled part of what was the Soviet Union or the Russian Federation. It has an increasing Islamist movement in it, but we don't know at this point. We'll see, but certainly as facts unfold, if it's appropriate, we'll pursue it.
Let's get now to the issue that you have been most closely identified with over this past week, and of course we're talking about this huge agreement on comprehensive immigration reform. Start first, how is this a game changer for this debate as far as you see it?
Well, it's a game changer because we are taking a tough problem that needs to be resolved and tackling it in every single dimension, so that our immigration system is clearly broken. I think Americans across this country realize that. This reform deals with our security, both at our borders, in entrance-exit visas, and how people come into the country and exit the country, and tracking them along the way. It promotes our national economy by making sure that some of the best and brightest in the world, many of them from our own universities here in New Jersey, can continue to spur American entrepreneurism and innovation. And at the same time, it preserves our nation as a nation of immigrants under the rule of law in a way that allows individuals to come out of the shadows into the light and earn their way over a very tough path for over a decade, earn their way towards permanent residency.
I wanted to touch on that because this isn't just show up and you're a citizen.
Oh, no.
No snapping of your fingers there and this is done. Is that part of the compromise of this? Did folks on your side of the aisle have to move perhaps a little bit more to the right than you would prefer to have to strike a deal?
Well, actually, Luke, this basic concept is something that I've always promoted in immigration reform. I've always said, first of all, that we're not going to give amnesty. Amnesty means you did something wrong, and we forgive you, and you don't have to do anything for it. That's never what I promoted. I've promoted earned citizenship. What does that mean? It means that these individuals who are undocumented to the country must come register with the government. They must go through they must pay a fine. They must go through a criminal background check. They must clear that criminal background check. And then we will give them an opportunity to have a temporary status in this country. During that temporary status, they must pay taxes. They must continue to be a good citizen. They must learn English, which is a new requirement for permanent residency. We require that for U.S. citizenship, but never for permanent residency. It's a new requirement. We think it's important. And they must earn their way over the course of 10 years. During those 10 years, we've always said that individuals who are here in an undocumented fashion must wait their time, because individuals who are waiting abroad, the sons and daughters, mothers and fathers of U.S. citizens who have a visa petition that has been approved but their date hasn't come up yet to come to the United States. They've been waiting, sometimes 10 years or more. So what we'll do is we will clear out that backlog. We will promote family reunification of U.S. citizens here in the United States. And then these individuals, if they've continued to earn their way, pay their taxes, learn English, and be an abiding citizen, will have a pathway to permanent residency and then beyond that citizenship.
Earlier in the week, we saw what we thought was a pretty solid bipartisan agreement on gun background checks, and sure enough, it was unsuccessful in making its way through the Senate. How optimistic are you, because we've had some published reports of some conservative opposition already to this bipartisan agreement, that this will make it through the Senate?
Well, look. You know, I don't like to draw a correlation between the gun effort and this effort. Obviously, two members of the Senate, Senator Toomey and Senator Manchin, one Democrat, one Republican, came together to offer a bipartisan compromise. We have 8 senators from across the ideological spectrum. So when you can go from Chuck Schumer to John McCain, when you can go from Arizona to Florida to South Carolina to New Jersey and get members geographically from across the country to agree, when in fact at the announcement we had this week, when you can get the president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the president of the AFL-CIO, when you can get Grover Norquist, one of the most arch-conservative individuals in this country, to stand behind us in immigration reform, when you can get faith-based institutions across the entire spectrum, from Catholic Church to evangelicals to others, when you can get the big agricultural growers in the country and get the United Farm Workers alongside
it's like the Hatfields and McCoys here.
You got it. You have a breadth and scope of support beyond the members themselves that I think creates a great foundation to solve this problem, secure our country, promote our economy, and ultimately preserve our American tradition of be a nation of immigrants.
We have time for one more, so I want to just end with this. We are New Jersey Power in Politics. Politics has to be somewhat of a role in this. You know, there have been a lot of folks who have said the conservative element, the Republican Party in this country, can forget about putting anybody up for president in the future if they can't get some portion of the Hispanic vote in this country. Do you believe in your heart of hearts that there are Republicans who are involved in this effort because they genuinely want to see immigration reform for the betterment of the people of this country? Or do you believe there are some on the Republican side who believe they have to do this to survive politically?
Well, I'm happy for whatever reason they're there, to be very honest with you.
By hook or by crook.
However they got their epiphany, I'm happy that they got it. Let me say, I think some of these members were involved in 2007 in trying to create immigration reform, so I give them credit for coming back to the effort. I was there in 2007. It fell apart when Senator Kennedy was leading the effort. He tried, and some of these members were there then. I do think that the last national elections showed a demographic shift in the country, created a real message to the Republican Party that if you want to be a national party, you have to be more inclusive of immigrants in this country. And that, I think, was echoed when we had our press conference the other day when John McCain said, let's have a little straight talk. The reality is the last elections was a wake-up call for the Republican Party, and we need to at least be competitive because we think we can win on our ideas if we're listened to, but we're not going to be listened to if we continue to act the way we have on immigration. So that's John McCain's statement. I trust his own view of it, but I'm happy for whatever reason people have come to the issue because we need to solve this problem for America.
Thanks for being a part of it, and thanks for joining us today. Good to see you. All right, folks, stick around. New Jersey Power in Politics wraps up after this.